friends, welcome to Trich Institute, and in today's Ceph storage tutorial series I'll be discussing about how you can deploy a Ceph cluster using service configuration file. So if you are following my tutorial series on Ceph storage, so you have already seen in my previous episode I have shown how you can deploy the cluster using Ceph Orchestrator command line options, and then you first you do a bootstrap, then you go ahead and add additional nodes for monitor, manager, OSD, and all those other services. Now think about you are deploying a large Ceph cluster where you have, let's say, 30 nodes and more than 200, 300 OSD devices. So doing like that is very tedious work. We have to do everything manually. So that is not possible. So how you can deploy it more efficiently, more faster way. So because of that, you can use service configuration file. So let's see the demo on how you can do that. So as you can see, I have three node cluster setup. If you see, so I have Ceph 1, Ceph 2, and Ceph 3 node. So I'll be using the Ceph 1 as my bootstrap node, and from this node I'll try to deploy the cluster using service configuration file. So for service configuration file, you need to write that file into YAML format. So here already have prepared one. So let me just cat that file. So as you can see, let me read it. So here in this file, it's very basic file. You can make it more complex as per your requirement, but this is just basic one I'm showing. So first thing what you do in this file, you define your host for your cluster. So you can see here chef 1, one host, then chef 2, then chef 3. So I have defined three nodes here. Once you do that, then you put your services, which service you want to put on which node. So like for that, I am putting my monitor service and I am using a host pattern where I'm giving like chef 1 to chef 3. Similarly for OSD, I am defining my placement pattern, like so it will be on deployed on all the three nodes. And for the devices, how it will think, okay, what should be the data device or what should be the DV device for the blue store. So for that I am defining paths. So I am defining the disk HDA HDV as my data device, whereas HDC as my DV device. So in a real world scenario, usually you'll have a NVMe disk or SSD that you'll be using as your device, DV device, or even your wall device, a WAL, that device. And normal, if you have hard disk, that you'll be using as your data devices for storing the data. So in this you can add more services, let's say for RGW or MDAs and all those things also you can define. So once you're done with this thing, second thing what you do, you generate your SSH key, because this SSH key is required to set up the passwordless authentication so that Ceph ADM, Ceph Orchestrator can log in to each node and configure the services. So for that you do your SSH keygen and then you create your private and public key. So I have already generated my private and public key. So these are the private and public key. So when you'll be doing the bootstrapping, you just mention these two keys there so that Boost Ceph ADM or Ceph Orchestrator can copy to all the nodes. And also you should set up passwordless authentication. So I have already set up like this. So if I do chef 2 uptime, so you can see it is already there. Similarly for chef 3 also I have set up. So from whichever user you are running, usually we'll do it from the root. So you set up the passwordless authentication from bootstrap node to the all other nodes. And also second thing, one more thing what you do, you install Ceph ADM in all the nodes so that you can do the installation. Actually, it is only required in Bootstrap. Other nodes is not mandatory, but I prefer to have it there because if you want to do any kind of local node operations, let's say you want to go to any OSD node and list down all the Ceph volumes. So if you have the Ceph ADM package there, you can do those operations. Also, if you want to clean up your cluster, the Ceph ADM will be required to have it in all the nodes. So once you're done with this prerequisite, means you have your configuration file created in YAML format, you have your passwordless authentication setup, you have your private public key generated, then you should be good to go ahead and deploy your cluster. So in my case, I have two different network. One is public network, so that is 192.168 series, and then I have my private network, that is 110.120.11.0. So I'll be using this as my cluster network. So let's deploy the cluster. So for that, what I'll be doing, Ceph ADM, I'll be doing Bootstrap. I have to mention my initial monitor IP. So this is the IP of my Bootstrap node. So for this case, Ceph1 is my Bootstrap node. So this is the Ceph1 IP. I'll be using private IP, that whichever I'm using for my private cluster network. So that I'll be using here. Then I'm setting up my initial dashboard user and initial dashboard user's password, and I'm setting it should not get updated in the next login. And then I'm specifying my cluster network. So if you don't have separate cluster network, this option is not required. This is not a mandatory option. Mandatory option is mostly this monitor IP is a mandatory option. So I'm specifying my cluster network. Usually in a production, you should have a separate cluster network to have a better performance. Then I am giving option called apply specs. So it will be applying the deploy.yml file specifications, whatever I have mentioned there. And then I'm specifying my SSH private key, which I already generated, and the public key. Once you are done with this, just press enter. So you'll be seeing like it is verifying the host and all, then it's copying, pulling all that images, and then doing the cluster setup. So in this scenario, you should see you have a ready cluster with three nodes with all the OSDs, monitor, manager, everything set up. So just give it for some time, wait for some 2-3 minutes, or depends on your configuration, it will be completed. As you can see, the cluster, this bootstrapping is completed. So here it is giving few information like Ceph dashboard is now available on my first node. This is the user, this is the password. So whatever username and password I have defined, so it applied that. Then if you see, it is adding the SSH keys what I have mentioned to other two nodes, Ceph2 and Ceph3, and then added them as a host to my cluster. So if you remember in my previous section, I was adding manually those hosts to the Ceph Orchestrator. So that is what done by this specification file. Then it is scheduling for that OSDs to update. It's creating an OSD and everything, and then it's saying Bootstrap is completed. Now if I do Chef ADM and shell, the difference you will see if I do save status, you should see that it is full done. So monitor is already deployed, manager is deployed, OSD deployment is going on, also monitor deployment. So you have to wait for some time. Once that is done, you should see that is done. So here you can see it's done already. Health is okay. I have 3 monitors, 2 managers, and also 6 OSDs created. So as per my specification. So if I do chef org host ls, you should see chef1, chef2, chef3. Similarly, if I do device ls, so all the nodes had three disks. So all the 3 disks are used. You can see here, right? HD, HDB, HDC, all are used. Similarly, if I do like chef volume lvm list, you should see I have a DB device, I have a block device. So for block, I have HDB, for DB, HDC. Similarly, for the other OSD also, block is HDA and DB is HDC. So similarly, from the host level, you can check if you do LSBLK, you should see HDA, HDB is part of block. You can see here OSD block, whereas HDC has two LV created because I have two block device, and those two are created and used as a DV device for my blue store. So like this, you can very easily deploy your Chef cluster using service configuration file. So thank you. Thanks for your time. If you have liked this video, please press the like button. If you don't like also, then please press the unlike button so that I can come to know that you didn't like the video. Also, you can use the comment section to let me know your thoughts, whether you liked or what you didn't like, or what improvement I can do. So those things you can put it there. And also please, if you want, you can share it with your friends, colleagues, so that they can also see these videos and learn from them. And one more thing before going, I want to remind you. Most of the time, what happens, you guys come and watch the videos, but you didn't subscribe to my channel. So I'll request you to please subscribe the channel and press the bell icon so that you get notification about upcoming videos and you don't miss them and you can see as soon as those videos are uploaded to the channel. So thank you. Thanks again. Thanks for your time. We'll see you in our next video.